in order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause.
This is Uncle Stu, the old man on the block, coming to you with another motivation and educational video. Do you ever feel like the world is against you? Like no matter what you do, you can't seem to catch a break? It's a mentality that's becoming all too common. The victim mentality culture, a societal mindset where individuals see themselves as victims of circumstances or discrimination rather than taking responsibility for their own actions and choices. One aspect of the victim mentality culture is the tendency to blame others for one's own problems or shortcomings. This can manifest in the form of individuals blaming their failures or discrimination or biases rather than their own lack of effort or skill. Another aspect of the victim mentality culture is the tendency to see oneself as entitled to certain privileges or benefits without having to work for them. This can manifest in the form of individuals expecting special treatment or accommodations without having to earn them, or groups demanding reparations for past injustices without taking responsibility for their own individual actions. The victim mentality culture can have a negative consequences for both individuals and society as a whole. On an individual level, it can lead to a feeling of resentment and entitlement, as well as a lack of motivation to improve oneself. On a societal level, it can lead to division and mistrust, as well as a lack of accountability and responsibility. It is important to note that while the victim mentality culture can be harmful, it is important to acknowledge and address real instances of discrimination and oppression. The key is to distinguish between the legitimate claims of injustice and those made in the victim mentality culture, and to address them accordingly. Don't let the victim mentality culture hold you back. Take responsibility for your own actions and choices and work towards a better future for yourself and society as a whole. Let's listen now to a man who understood and lived through prejudice and biases and oppression. And let's hear his response to exactly how to overcome that victim mentality.
Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate. We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Malcolm X, one of the most influential civil rights leaders of the 20th century, fought against the victim mentality culture of his time. In the 1950s and 60s, African Americans were faced with systematic oppression and discrimination. It would have been easy for them to adopt a victim mentality and blame their circumstances on the racism and biases of society. But Malcolm X rejected this mentality. He believed that African Americans must take responsibility for their own actions and choices in order to bring about change. He organized and empowered the Black community to take control of their own lives and fight for their rights. He rejected the idea that they were helpless victims and instead urged them to take action and demand their rights as equal citizens. Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had different approaches to fight for civil rights, but they both believed in the importance of individual agency and self-empowerment. Thanks to the leaders like Malcolm X and the civil rights movement, African Americans was able to break the cycle of the victim mentality culture and bring about real change in society. Malcolm X's message of self-empowerment and individual agency continue to inspire people today to fight against discrimination and oppression and reject the victim mentality culture. You too can break this cycle of being a victim. Where are you? Where do you want to go? Write the vision, make it plain, and then put your plan into action. Remember, the people in the past overcame many burdens, many trials, many discrimination things that we in 2023 and in this time are not facing. But we can overcome anything: financial, social, political, and relationships. We can do it if we're willing to do it together. The greatest enemy that we have is the enemy within. And so let's defeat the enemy within so that we can defeat anything outside of us. This is Uncle Stu. Hit that like, leave me a comment, and definitely subscribe to this channel. And if you like this message, share this message and let this word get out. Remember, you don't have to be a victim anymore. You are now victorious. This is Uncle Stu, and I'm out. Peace.